Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I have another ECM test. This time working on a 2002 Jaguar X-Type. This is sent from a shop here in Virginia. They sent this computer and have the information here. Let me just show it to you. Already been the little note that he got that this is the V number ends in 54062, and as you can see there, it says DTC is p0480, which is cooling fan control circuit. Both fans stays on high speed. All right, so as you all know, I always do my homework. I try to, create as much as I can the harnesses, but in this one I just made kind of like a universal that I can use for other computers as well. So use this universal test platform, powers and grounds, and then kind of high, kind of low. Um, is the connector sorry, yeah, pin 2, pin 7, and pin 12, pin 6 and 14, CAN bus high and low, and then K line, SPC communications, and so on for other computers. But that's what I'm using in here. I have also connected the oscilloscope to the pin 51, which I'm going to show you in a second, which is the send command the computer is doing to activate the cooling fan module. This actually, the module on the fan needs to send a 5 volts to the computer, and the computer kind of grounds the signal to create a pulse width modulated signal. And it's not a full ground. You'll see that is a very different signal, and you will see. I also have the coolant temperature sensor I rigged down, and that's when I have this decay box in here. I'm providing 330 ohms of resistance, like that I can to ground, right, like a thermistor should be, and then I can increase and decrease the temperature, but we'll see that in the scanner. Uh, this is all original information coming from Jaguar. I have the actual computer connector, and because this is better to work with this wire diagram than the color wire diagram, because if I go over to the color wire diagrams, which I show you, let me just get you to see that. Again, I save all the information. Yeah, you can color it right here. You see in here, the main problem, yeah, you will have to follow every single line, because there is like, like that pin 7, yeah, I have to follow it, and it goes into the ignition switch. But yeah, if I follow each wire, how long is it going to take me, right? So I did double check. Yes, the connections are okay or good into the color diagram, but I don't know why whoever built, I think it's Bosch, that makes all these wire diagrams for the all data and identifics and all of them, and then resells them. I didn't pull all the information because it is actually here, and this is the original information. Very nice. You can see how the Arduino 2 sensors are here, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. I mean, so this diagram is better than that color wire diagram, because I mean, I don't care about having color. I need to have this information, and so is you, right? So very good from this system. So if you're not familiar to using these wire diagrams from Jaguar, you'll see all these boxes in here. So let's say, this, let's just follow one pin. So this number one, it says B plus and with a triangle, and then it has this 32 square in here, which I already put as terminal 30, and you're gonna see why. At the bottom of this page, right? So right here, we will have all those symbols. You see B plus, it says battery voltage. And I put, lines so I can go in with faster visual to remember, because today of course I just did this, so it's pretty easy for me to remember, but then later I will have to come back. And I always try to use red for battery, yellow for terminal 15, and red for 87 and 30, and yellow for terminal 15. I usually use orange for communication lines, and obviously black for ground, and then greens are just for signals, like in this case the coolant temperature sensor. All right, so but going back into that 32 square, right here, we got that 32 square. This is to follow the actual diagram. All right, so we are in page in here. This is page 0.31, and this is how you have to follow. All right, so if I go over to there, it says 32 square, right? That square should be in figure 0.12. All right, so I downloaded that too as well, and I'm going to take you there. So 0.12, right? Let me see. Yeah, mm-hmm. 0.12. All right, so 0.12 right here. So figure 0.12 is the next wire diagram, and I make it already easy for all of us to follow. So we got the square 32, right? So this is the wire that connects onto 0.31, the page we were before. And if I follow that, this wire goes into the power distribution fuse box. I also follow this square 5, and that is directly goes into battery, so we don't waste more time in that. And that's how you find all the wire diagrams. I also follow that pin 51, which is, I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but the way the fans are controlled, we can see here, right? So this is the cooling fan module. The signal that goes to the computer comes from terminal or pin 51 to, I'm not sure which pin because I don't have the pins in here. So in the white and blue wire, all I can see here is a pulse width modulated 1. It says 2 and 3. So this is pulse width modulated 1, and I guess it's terminal 3, but I'm not sure because I'm not in the car, and I don't really need that because I don't have that here. So all I have is that I follow that line, right? And I know that is in terminal and pin 51 on the engine computer, which that's what I have, this orange wire, and that is connected the um, to the oscilloscope, and I'm also providing a 5-volt reference, being um, the fan control module, right? So again, going into powers and grounds, I have powers in pin 22, 23, and 24. I divided into battery positive and then a terminal 87. For those that don't know, they are through a relay. Again, we can see that if we see the circle 89 and 90E, we go bottom of the page, and I'm trying to teach you how to do this. So 8990 should be on figure 0.16. All right, so we're looking for 81 and 90. I should have that very simple to follow very quickly. All right, so we're right here. So 89 and 90 coming from that page 0.31 or figure 0.31, they go together into a splice. And the reason I put terminal 87, because you'll see in a second, it goes to here through a fuse, and that all connects, if we follow, right, alone connects to this white and blue wire that is coming from this relay, right? So that's the contactor side, not the control side, right? And if we follow the next side, it goes to another fuse, a 50 amp fuse, and it's coming from that same point 0.5, which I already know that that is a battery bus, as it says in here, coming straight from the battery. So this is a constant battery power, but it's not constant. Why? Because it needs to be closed. This is the EMS control relay. Until this relay closes, that power will be there. And that's what I named that terminal 87. Hope you guys like how visual I do this. I'm using good notes on my iPad to use all this. I'm very, very happy with this because I can keep all that information for you and for me, right? So yeah, so that's how I came to conclusion that yeah, all this is correct. We have ignitions on pin 7 and pin 10. I'm going to show you the connector in a second. We have CAN low and CAN high in 123 and 124, and then K line and pin 105. Again, the coolant temperature sensor is in pin 70. I follow that one here because I have the coolant temperature sensor, ECT sensor. And for the thermistors, you can remember the computer is going to send a signal. It's a special 5-volt reference that's going to be pulled down sorry, through the sensor, and we can see all the auto wire. If we follow this wire here, it goes into a splice, so that cannot be a signal, right? So that is the ground that is used for all the rest of the sensors. So the signal is completely separate. But yeah, so that's the coolant temperature sensors, and those are the only signals that I really need to test for what he has. All right, so I'm going to power up the computer. I am using, because I didn't have communication at first, but it's because I was having a wrong cable. So let me actually remove, um, I'm just going to do a test. I'm going to remove this um, 120 ohm resistor because I think this computer communication K line is a 2002. So I'm not sure. Looking at the DLC, it shows both the 6 and 14 and the pin 7. So, all right, so let me power this up. All right, so I'm powering up the computer and I'm going to go over the scanner now. We're going to select the Jaguar. This is going to be Jaguar and Land Rover, at least in here, right, with the Phoenix Max. I always use the top-down Phoenix Max. This is my go-to tool here. I'm very happy with it. Right, it has established the communication with the NDCI. We're going to do a manual selection. This is an X-Type 2001.5 to 2003, and then a 2.5 liter engine. I already know that because with the VIN that he provided, I obviously download all the information and I know that that is a 2.5 engine. Right, so this is now is going to try to read the VIN because I didn't do the auto selection or auto ID. The way this is, it would not work. So I have to do it manually. All right, so we're going to enter the ECM. Yeah, so you see I don't need to have that terminator resistor in place. All right, so we're going to look the version information. And this is where we already see the big number in here, C54062, C54062, and we can again see that all here. So that all is good. That's the calibration and module part number, which is correct. All right, so we're going to read the fault code first to make sure that we have that p0480 right here. We do. The rest, I don't need to check anything because those are just created because of what we have here. Let's go over to the read data stream. Again, 2.5 normal aspirated engine and then automatic transmission. And we're going to select just the engine coolant temperature, right? So we can now be here. So I got right now with that much of resistance, 330 ohms to ground, I had 195.8 degrees. All right, so let me see. Oh, I forgot to show you the computer connector, right? That's very important. So this is the computer connector. This is all you will see, but it's actually really good. So if we joined what we see here with that connector, which I also put in the first page, you will see that I had that in here. So I got all that connector because this is kind of like the description, which I also mark powers and grounds and all the stuff in there. But I like to see the wiring diagram to see what is going on and everything. But yeah, so we have all those pins and I duplicated and they're all correct. This is the computer view, not the connector on the harness. That's very confusing because not all manufacturers show this. Some they show the computer connect, I mean the harness connector, not the computer connector. So this is the engine control module. And you will see that the engine control module has this tab, so this will guide you to know which one is pin 1, because this is exactly all the pins. So 1 through 14 are here, 15 to 28 on the bottom row, right? So this is the bottom row and obviously the last row. And you see you got 4 tabs, 2 tabs, and 2 tabs. So there's pretty easy to decipher how the computer actually lay out. And yes, and I check with the grounds. That's how I usually check. What I do is I check, let's say, we know that pins 17 and 18 and 4 and 5 are ground. So I go to 4 and 5 with my multimeter in continuity and I go over to capacitors. The capacitors are always marked the ground. Or if you have this dial right here, let me get something to point, plastic, right? So this is the main dial to protect the computer in case of a back like if you connect the battery backwards. So this will protect the computer and also for a high voltage in case the alternator start to overcharge. This will just let no more than 15 volts goes through here. All right, so this will be your ground path and this will be your power side. So I check from continuity from ground to, from the pins 4 and 5, 17 and 18. And yes, I did match in here. Not all of them, 17 and 18 in here, 4 and 5 with some of the other areas, but that is normal, right? So divided the load, and some of the grounds are for sensors and some of the grounds are for the whole computer, right? So that's how I know that I am correct because I am, again, I'm not in the vehicle. If you're in the vehicle, you can check the colors of the wires, and that will be, I usually go with like a sequence, and I learned this from my friend Paul Danner. That was a very good teaching from him. So he goes, and let's say, we have in here B, which is a brown. So you will have a sequence of brown, brown, yellow, and this is green and orange. So brown, brown, yellow, green, and orange, and that will be good for that. So, all right, yeah, that's how you will find with the sequence on your harness if you are in the correct pins as well, because obviously they don't have any number markings in here and probably not in the connector either. All right, so we have this. Let me take you over to the oscilloscope because I also mark, and I found this through Identifix, that we're supposed to be looking at a pulse width modulated signal. So if you see here, if I go over to the next page where I follow that pin 51, which is where the oscilloscope is connected, I put in here pulse width modulated. Yeah, this is not, this is wrongly spelled, but forget about that. Pulse width modulated signal, and then that's it. So we have this signal. Let me change the amplitude so we can see a little more. That's actually being cut, so I can do that. Let me actually in the display. Let me put this into, yeah, I can do it 3 times. Like that, we can see that better. Hopefully you guys can see the signal. So when I have 195 or so, the fan should be right now almost not being operated. Remember, the highest is the operation, and the reason I know that, I'm going to come down to, all right, let me just show you, well, actually, let me just show you the amplitude of the waveform first before we change the waveform. So we're going from 5 volts to 3.2, right? So that's the amplitude of the waveform now. And we are having activations, very short activations, right? Like if we see right now, that is like a half a microsecond, right? And are being pulsed every 7 milliseconds, all right? So half a microsecond every 7 milliseconds. If I change the temperature, which I'm going to show you right here, all right, so we have right now 195, so I'm going to come down, and we are now in 230. I want you to see what is happening. I'm going to go back to the 195, and I want you to see what happens to the waveform instantly, right? So, and it comes exactly to where we were, right? So you see, so right now it comes back exactly there. I'm going to the 230. I'm going to keep you in the screen, and I want you to see how that now changes. All right, so now the amplitude high is now more than it was low before, and the whole waveform changed, right? So we're now going from 5 volts to 4 volts, so right? And let's see the amplitude of the wave, or see, well, first, if it's 7 milliseconds still. Yeah, it's like 7 milliseconds. Hopefully you guys can see that in there, right here. So the delta is 7 milliseconds. And let me see if it's a still half a microsecond in between that waveform. Some people, don't want me to do the screen zoom here. Yeah, it's like it's a lot of work to do a lot of videos and work at the same time. So you're gonna have to bear with me this way. Yeah, this is a little faster. It's 379 microseconds, so a little shorter pulse negative, let's say, right? So and you can see we're in 230 degrees. Again, I'm going to go back to the 190, and we can see how the signal immediately changes. So yeah, I don't see any problems with the computer. The computer is definitely changing, is definitely sending the signal that those fans need. Either you have a problem on the wire, because I did check the whole circuit, again with continuity and powering off. This computer has that pin 51. goes along from underneath and goes to a diode to ground, and then it has two resistors, one of 30,000 ohms and another one of 30 ohms before it enters the actual processor right here. So this pin right here, this dot, hopefully you guys can see well. So this dot in here will touch in here, and we will, I can see the signal reaching all the way there. If I inject a signal, a pulse width signal, with the computer off, and that's how I usually find the signal. I use my signal generator, which is no amperage, right, with the computer off, and I just put it on the pin and I follow the signal because sometimes especially in a multi-layer board, it's hard to find a signal. You can use the continuity rubbing and usually put, a wire like this. This is what I have, this wire. I put this into the um, multimeter and I rub the wire because the multimeter is really fast to pick, and I rub the wire through the board instead to use just the point of the multimeter. This brush of wires picks up a lot faster and you can move it very easily without scratching or damaging anything to create or to find the wire. But sometimes it's a very minuscule or very small part like that one that is better to inject the signal and you can find it to corroborate and make sure that you are in the correct path. But yes, like I said, I don't see anything wrong with this. So let's see if we can erase the fault. All right, so we have this one erased. Let's read the fault codes. Yep, I don't see the p0480 no more here. You see what I mean? So yeah, so by me providing that fireball reference, which is what the computer is expecting, and changing the temperature on the coolant sensor, which is again what the computer is using to command those fans, that p0480 that we were having before is completely gone. So this is also actually to corroborate, to make sure that what I'm saying is true. Yeah, the fault code is no longer here. So yeah, Anwar, yep, your computer problem is definitely in the car. I don't see anything in the computer as far as that fault code related. Everything looks pristine, no corrosion, no burn spots, and all the pad from the front to the back is there. I can command and see the signal. So that's it, right? All right, guys, thank you so much for visiting the channel. I hope that you like the content and you understand. A lot of people is like, oh, I want to see through the microscope and I want you to see. Well, dude, guys, then create your own YouTube channel and you can show us all what you want to do. My channel, I try to work and I try to share information. So if uh, I try to be as to please you as much as possible without incurring into extra work that's for me completely unnecessary. I mean, what would I do just showing a diode and showing a resistors? I'm telling you what is involved into. That's it. I can turn this off. And like I said, the signal is right there where I show you. And the other two parts of the equation in here, now I can move this safely, are this first resistor. And I can actually, let me put that camera so you can see that I did the homework like I said. Let me turn the oscilloscope off. And I'm going to get the microscope camera on. And I was on my trip to Switzerland. All right, microscope is on. Let me just try to put this into, yeah, that's perfect. All right, let me full screen this. All right, that's exactly where the mouse is. You can see that's a 30,000 ohm resistant. I mean, I put a black mark. That's a black marker. And then the same thing on this diode. That is just a small diode, 47, right? So that is the next part. And that goes over to this other three resistors in the center. Again, you can see the dot mark. That's a 30 ohm resistor. And the rest of the signal, now that I have the microscope on, let me just put this into um, the proper zoom. Just give me 1 second. All right, so perfect. All right, so the rest of the signal goes inside here and enters into this one right here, so right there, all right, right where I'm touching right here, and you can see the mark that I did with my multimeter or signal right there. I'm sorry, guys, right there when I had that pin right there. So that's the signal, and then the actual pad starts or comes from this one right here. So right there, and then into that one. So that is, like I said, check all the line from pin 51 to all the way to them IC, right? So nothing else to do. All communications are good and the signals are good. So yes, I'm trying to show as much as I can. Remember, this is just a test feed. I'm not repairing a computer, so I cannot spend hours and hours and hours because yes, it might be very nice for a video, very, very, very bad for me as a business. All right, guys, thank you so much. See you next time. Bye bye.